All right, I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting of Thursday, August 17th. Roll call, please.
Chair Dennison.
Here.
Vice Chair Pevsner. Absent. Commissioners Moran, also absent. Simcock.
Here.
And you.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. I would look for an approval of the agenda. If we could, I would recommend we modify it and do the second hearing first. Somebody wants to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda, but listen to the second part first.
So this was from last meeting.
No, this
No,
is
this is
the agenda for today.
Agenda's, I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Next up is the approval of the minutes of the August 3rd, 2023 meeting. Does anybody have any edits?
I do not.
I'll look for a motion to approve them as presented.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Abstain.
abstentions?
Aye.
One abstention.
The motion doesn't carry, unfortunately. There's only 2 commissioners.
Then we'll see these again. Next up is our council liaison report. Mr. Mayor, would you like to, do you have anything to share?
No report other than we've been dark for the past 2 meetings, and this coming Tuesday, the council will be back meeting. I haven't seen the agenda yet. It's usually prepared on Thursday, so I'm sure it's going to be packed. So we'll look forward to that. As you know, we've been having construction downtown, and Christensen Brothers is doing a fantastic job communicating with the city. And the city's been doing a great job through Chris Cimino communicating with residents and businesses. Actually, this week, because it was the first week of PUSD being back in session, Christensen Brothers delayed construction, the time of the start of the construction, in order for parents, residents, business people, time to get up and down the boulevard during that first crazy week of school. So we're grateful for that. But other than that, no formal report. I am the assistant liaison to the Planning Commission. We've been dark, so I look forward to seeing everybody back on Tuesday. Thank you.
Great.
Any
Thank
questions
you.
for me while I'm up here? No?
No questions.
Thank you.
All right. At this time, we'll have a disclosure of site visits or any ex parte contacts for either of tonight's hearings.
I have none.
I went to the site at Baldwin Court today and walked the lot just to see where the walls and everything was going to be.
I also went to the Baldwin Court site, but had no contact with anybody. All right. Public hearing. 595 Auburn Avenue, design review permit 22-08, an application to allow demolition of an existing structure and new construction of 3,931 square feet.
Chair,
I forgot public comment, didn't I? Thank you. Before we get into the public hearing, we'll do public comment. At this time, anybody may come forward and speak on any item that is not on tonight's agenda. The commission welcomes your attendance and participation. When addressing the commission, please begin by providing your name and address for the record, and please keep comments to no more than 3 minutes to assure an orderly and timely meeting. Seeing none, we'll move to the design review permit 22-08. Point of order, do we need to have discussion or public comment before or after we make the motion to move it to a date certain?
if you're going to move it to a date certain, I think you should have the public comment before you make before you take formal action. So you could make the motion and then take public comment if you'd like.
Okay. So I think that we're looking to have a motion to move this to a date certain of September 7th.
I'd like to make a motion to move the design review permit 2208 to September 7th.
I second.
All right, at this time, we'll take public comment. This is for anybody who wants to speak to us about the design review permit at 595 Auburn Avenue. We do not have enough commissioners to deliberate on it tonight, so we've moved it to a date certain of September 7th. Any comments? All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to deliberation. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next up is our public hearing of 603 Baldwin Court. This is Hillside Development Permit 15-02 and Conditional Use Permit 15-02. Do we have a presentation from staff?
We have a PowerPoint presentation from Associate Planner Wolf.
Thank you, and good evening, Planning Commission. Tonight, the Commission will be hearing the project for Hillside Development Permit 1502, Conditional Use Permit 1502, 603 Baldwin Court, Lot 1 of the Stonegate Development. The applicant is requesting to allow the construction of a new 3,454 square foot single-family residence that includes an attached two-car garage on an existing flat pad. Pursuant to the Sierra Madre Municipal Code, construction of a single-family dwelling unit in the Hillside Management Zone requires the approval of a Hillside Development Permit. And then pursuant to the condition of approval of the tract map for this project, development, which can be seen from the location of the Macomber Cabin, Carter Barn, or Willis Estate, is subject to a CUP to ensure that development contrasts with the design of these cultural resources and to protect these cultural resources by distinguishing them from non-historic contexts. The criteria for the Planning Commission's review is going to be Sierra Madre Municipal Code Chapter 17.52, which is the Hillside Management Zone Development Standards, the Stonegate Design Guidelines established in July of 2010, and the settlement agreements through tolling agreements and through the original agreements, which provides exceptions for maximum floor area, placement of building over slopes, parking, and height measurement. The proposed project is a new single-family residence. To repeat, that is a two-story residence with an attached two-car garage totaling 3,454 square feet on an existing flat building pad. The residence will be a traditional craftsman-style architecture with shingle siding and asphalt shingle roof, low-pitched gables, tapered columns on piers, and an emphasis on natural elements. The project Lot 1 is located on the west side of Baldwin Court, directly north of 5 West Carter Avenue and south of Lot 2 on Stonegate. Other lots seen on screen outlined in red are currently under review pending Planning Commission hearing. Outlined in blue to represent approved entitlement. Outlined in orange, which is there on Lot 9, for construction plan approval pending the issuance of a building permit. Outlined in yellow to represent the issuance of a building permit. And notably, Lot 5 here has started construction this week. Then outlined in green to represent completed construction. Site photographs shown here on the top left is of the property facing west. The top right is of the property facing east. The bottom left is of the hillside facing west. And the bottom right is of the neighbor, Lot 25, facing east. And on the following slide, we see photos on the top left of the property facing south. And notably on this photo, we are able to see a little bit of the neighboring property as well as some vegetation to be of interest to be preserved. On the top right is of the property facing north. And on here you can again see the one of the trees to be preserved as well as one of the existing coast live oak trees. They're fronting the street. On the bottom left is of the neighbor facing the south. This is a closer image of the neighbor, and again some of that vegetation. You see the palms and a bit of that cedar tree to be preserved. And on the bottom right is of the neighbor facing north, and that would be Lot 2 to be developed. I also want to point out on that bottom left picture, you can barely make out the top of the wood fence. So it's on the bottom left photo here, and it's a line below where you see the palm trees. And that's where the top of the wood fence is on top of that existing stone wall. On the ridgeline analysis, the nearest ridgeline is located upon Lot 10 with a horizontal distance of approximately 360 feet and a vertical distance of approximately 44 feet from the nearest corner of the property at the north corner. But from the building pad, the vertical distance would be approximately 96 feet from the nearest ridgeline. The lot has an irregular sawtooth shape with a generally flat building pad in the eastern portion of the lot that is relatively level with the street at the northern end. The lot is shaped this way to respect in respect to the existing residential development outside the Stonegate development immediately to the south, and as a result of a lot line adjustment that follows the pre-existing rock walls and carves out an area for the landscape to be preserved. And this would be represented by this inward corner spike you see at that curve. There is the existing rock wall. So understanding the feasibility of this lot requires some understanding of all the conditions. And that first would be the access to this lot in the flattest areas at the top and east, the northeast section from the street on Baldwin Court. This is the most accessible point, flat area to the lot. And we'll see later how that is the only accessible way to get vehicles onto the lot. But there was also a study of the average lot width, which determines where setbacks should be determined. And because the existing building pad is already situated at the northern end of the lot, it made more sense to minimize the setback at the north end. But because the inward pointing lot line, 20% of the average lot width is required as a side setback from this point. There we go. So that's the average lot width calculation. It's a continuous 10-foot step averaging the width. The average width turned out to be 90 feet. 10% of that would equal 9 feet, and the remaining would be 18 feet. You get setbacks that look something like this as projected on screen, 20% on the south side and 10% on the north side. With the setbacks determined, the theoretical building area is quite large until the steep hillside is considered, which adds a huge constraint on the property, leaving the area of the building pad the only realistic area for feasible development. The proposed building outline works with these constraints and proposes minor projections into the setback areas. The building was also cited in thoughtfulness to its presence from the entrance of the development area, with the idea that slightly skewed south elevation would be the most visually present portion of the proposed residence, as highlighted on screen in red. The existing site's building pad is primarily within slope category 1 of less than 15% grade. However, there are areas in and around the lot which are within slope categories 3 and 4 of 25% or more that will, additional grading will be required to accommodate the development. Highlighted areas on screen represent the approximate area of excavation by slope category, and this is to achieve a full building pad elevation of 1,085 feet. And here you can see that the building outline is projected here where the development would occur and the grading would occur. Grading requires approximately 550 cubic yards of cut, 50 cubic yards of fill, leaving 50 cubic yards for export. A series of retaining walls is proposed at the center of the lot that will wrap the building footprint at the north end and the west sides. Retaining wall on the west side will have an exposed height of 7.5 feet, measuring from the proposed 2-to-1 grade terraced behind a lower wall. However, the height above the pre-existing grade would only be 3.5 feet. And here I'm pointing at the wall that intersects at the west end, and its height above the proposed 2-to-1 grade here is a 7'5" exposed height. But from pre-existing grade, that would only be a 3.5 foot difference. Pad elevation is at the 1,085 foot elevation, which is about 6 feet higher than the developed property at 30 West Carter Avenue, 10 feet higher than the average street elevation of Baldwin Court and 6 feet lower than the proposed Lot 2. Drainage as highlighted on slide includes an underground system of perforated subdrain pipes, catch basins, and PVC drainage pipes leading into an underground infiltration basin, then overflowing into a parkway drain. And that infiltration basin you see, it's going to be fully underground. It's at the southern tip and points of that lot. Of the 8 trees identified on the site, 4 are protected oaks. 1 is an Atlantic cedar of interest for preservation, and the remaining are eastern redbud and Australian brush cherry. One of the eastern redbud located at the front of the property, and it's highlighted on screen in red. And I'd like to differentiate that from that pink one just south of it. And just to go back and forth here, these trees shown right now are to be preserved, and these trees I just highlighted here are the ones proposed for removal that would be conflict with the proposed development. The one at the rear is a scrub oak, and that would conflict with the back patio of the proposed development. And the remaining trees may be protected in place following the recommendations of the arborist outlined in the arborist report. The removal of the trees that conflict with the proposed are mitigated with the recommended replacement of 2 24-inch box replacements as part of the landscape plan. Taking off from the setbacks found in the site analysis and projecting it onto the proposed development, we can see that the proposed building line is within the required setbacks and works well with the existing grade. The actual setbacks proposed are slightly greater than required, with a 10-foot setback at the north side that maintains a cumulative side yard setback required equal to 30% of the average lot width. So where 10 feet is provided at the front, to achieve 30% cumulative lot width, only 17 would be required at the south end. And then for those encroachments into the setback area, there are porches which wrap both the front and to the side. And those would encroach into the setback areas a maximum of 6 feet as permitted by Sierra Madre Municipal Code. The proposed landscape plan includes London Plains, Toyon, shoestring acacia, and strawberry trees that will be incorporated with the existing coast live oak and scrub oak trees. The shoestring acacia and strawberry tree are proposed, will each be 36-inch box trees, in total 7 in number. They will be planted amongst blue agave and fortnight lily. Within the terraced retaining walls, there will be planted 29 5-gallon breeze mat rush and 13 5-gallon Chinese fringe flower shrubs. That will soften the appearance of those walls. Hardscape materials include random pattern stonework and concrete in varying shades of beige and tan. The ground floor plan includes the 2-car garage, family, living, and dining rooms, kitchen with auxiliary interior fry kitchen and pantry, powder room, an outdoor covered patio, porch, and deck area. The rearmost patio will not be fully covered and instead feature a trellis cover extending off the south-facing gable that will provide additional natural light into the family room. The total area of the first floor is 1,547 residential plus 462 area for the garage. And highlighted here on the ground floor plan in red is the outline for the second floor above, by comparison. Landing at the second floor, an open interior area provides access to bedrooms, laundry room, a bathroom, and open-to-sky roof deck that will face the street and capture a view of the valley. There's a primary bedroom suite with generous area for bathroom and walk-in closet. Additionally, there are 2 standard bedrooms that share a common access bathroom. The primary bedroom and bedroom number 2 share a shallow south-facing balcony. It's about 18 inches deep. The total area of the second floor is 1,445 square feet. Here I've shown that the second floor is well stepped back from the building line of the first floor, primarily at the east and west sides, with minor stepping back given at the south and north sides. The roof is designed to represent traditional craftsman style by incorporating gable roofs in one consistent low pitch with modest eaves to allow for exposed rafters and beams. Gables are primarily faced east and west to allow for larger roof plane sheds to follow the natural hillside slopes. A minor side gable is present at the southwest corner and features an extended trellis roof covering the patio. The primary roof is established at the second floor with a ridge on center to the building footprint, with secondary ridges for both the second and first floors cascading from it. And on the slide, I've also pointed out the highest point of the building, which would be at 24 feet and 6 inches above finished grade, with a, from that point, 33 and 11 setback from front property line. The north and south elevations are well fenestrated, providing singular and paired single-hung windows with divided light detail in the top half. Roofs are shed toward the north and south sides, with braces and beams seen exposed beyond the side projecting eaves. The south elevation has the most visual presence from the intersection of Baldwin and Carter Avenues, and is being approached from along Baldwin Court. Thusly, it includes the most visual interest, with a chimney terminating at the east corner and visually breaking the recessed wall beyond for the easterly projections portions of the building, which is a roof deck at the south elevation and at the east end, and a low south projecting side gable at the west end. And here I have highlighted the elevations of interest along with the landscape shown. So you're not looking at something that's floating above the ground there. You can see here that the 24 foot 6-inch elevation is the top of the building, represents the total height. The second floor is at a 10-foot elevation. The ground floor is 0, and the lower patio outside on the south elevation is 2 feet 4 inches below ground level. On the north elevation, I've also pointed out the areas for where the garage will go and where the stairwell will go, which makes fenestration a little bit difficult. And I've also projected on here the angle plans that show that the building is fully within its required envelope. The north and south elevations continue to use single-hung windows with divided light detail in the top half singularly and in combination with fixed picture windows. Gable ends are more present on these elevations, highlighting the craftsman style by revealing secondary material below gables and presenting braces and exposed beams. The front porch is covered by a projected gable supported by tapered columns on piers. And again, I have pointed out the elevation points of interest along with the landscaping, as well as the angle plane to ensure that the project is within its building envelope. The sections better demonstrate the natural slope and the structure's relationship to it. These sections also reveal that the house will be low to the ground with respect to modern trends, where the floor-to-ceiling height in the proposal is at 9 feet. From these sections, we can also see that there are provided 2 feet eaves, traditional craftsman style. Materials of this project include a charcoal-colored composite asphalt shingle roof, brilliant white trim board, James Hardie fiber cement horizontal siding for the second level, and shingle siding for the first floor in a Booth Bay blue color, and Coronado stone with sand mold brick and Savannah gray for the piers, chimney, and exposed foundation. The garage will be fronted by a pair of tapered columns on piers that support the roof extending beyond the face of the garage by 5 feet. The extended roof will also feature brackets and materials below the gable consistent with the design elements seen on other elevations. Additionally, the garage door will be recessed from the building line of the garage by an additional 12 inches. Since the garage will inevitably have some presence at the street, a custom garage door is proposed in a pattern that ties back to the railing seen on the second level deck. The garage will have 2 separate side-by-side single bay doors with windows in a color to match. For the project data summary, I'd like to point out that this project is well within the development requirements of the Sierra Madre Municipal Code and not just the settlement agreement. And I'd like to highlight that the floor area not only complies with the settlement agreement, but also complies with Sierra Madre Municipal Code as if it would be applied today. Same with parking, because we're under 3,500 square feet here, only 2 is required. The settlement agreement does provide the exception, though, for 2 covered spaces. The building also meets the 24-foot 6-inch height as measured from finished grade to the peak, but the code requires 25 feet as measured from the grade to a point 1/3 above the top plate, between the top plate and the roof ridge. So this project is well within development standards as they could be applied today. Our neighborhood analysis, including the sample of 13 properties and excluding multifamily and vacant land, shows that the proposed residential floor area at 2,992 square feet is less than the average of the top 1/3 of neighboring properties by 893 square feet. I'd also like to provide additional neighborhood context. Here's a closer aerial image showing Lot 1 and the existing neighboring development. Although the area is generally hilly, there is not much of a grade difference between Lot 1 and the nearest neighbor, where Lot 1 is about 6 feet above the grade to 3 West Carter Avenue. So projected on screen, I have Lot 1 here outlined in red along with its building footprint. And by reference, I have that at the 0-foot elevation. At 3 West Carter, that's about 6 feet below the grade of Lot 1. And the contour lines are pretty much in line to that. We only see about a 6 feet difference. And the enlarged photo taken from the site facing south is on screen right now. Although there are 2 palms and 1 Atlantic cedar, their foliage is relatively thin and the neighboring property is visible. Proposed planting is to provide screening between the 2 properties, and it includes 3 15-gallon Toyon and a 15-gallon London plane. On screen now is our massing study. On the top is a 3D perspective view that shows Lot 1 on the right-hand side of it, which is at the north, and to the left is the Google Earth provided imagery for Lot 3 West Carter Avenue. On the bottom of the slide is a non-perspective 3D view that faces north, showing as much of the Stonegate development proposed and constructed as possible. And a rendering has been provided, which is a superimposed proposed residence rendered onto a wide-angle photo taken in about 2014. The wide angle taken for the purpose of showing context in the neighboring area and visibility to the Willis Estate, Carter Barn, and Macomber Cabin. Now on screen is a colored rendering of the front elevation, also showing Lot 2, and a demonstration here of grade difference that you see. Lot 2 is about 6 feet higher than Lot 1. Findings are summarized in the following points. For a hillside development permit, first we find that it is consistent with the general plan for single-family residential use. It meets all zoning regulations, including floor area, height, setbacks, and parking. The new construction is on an existing flat building pad. The project does not impact ridgeline views. The development will comply with a fuel modification plan, and the proposal uses earth tone color palette. For conditional use permit findings, we find that the new house is differentiated from the existing historic structures as a traditional craftsman style. Baldwin Court does provide sufficient access and circulation for a single-family development. The single-family use is consistent with the single-family development within its vicinity. The lot was created for the purpose of development in a single-family residence, and the project meets all requirements of the zoning code and meets the intent of the general plan. Furthermore, we find consistency with the Stonegate design guidelines, a custom architecture design that responds to the site conditions. Mass and bulk are reduced with breaks in wall plane, roof variations, architectural projections, and an open patio. A custom garage is proposed that blends with the building. A variety of window sizes and configurations to enhance visual interest. The materials are durable and low maintenance that include asphalt shingle cool roof and a fiber cement board for siding. Landscape plan is water efficient, retains the existing cedar and palms, and is an integral component to the project design. The alternatives before the Planning Commission tonight are to approve the applications for Hillside Development Permit 1502 and Conditional Use Permit 1502, subject to the conditions of approval in Planning Commission Resolution 23-13. They may also approve the application with modifications, deny the request by identifying the findings that the Planning Commission feels cannot be made and the basis for rejecting those findings, or continue the subject project by providing the direction to applicant and staff. Staff is recommending approval of the application for these Hillside Development Permit and Conditional Use Permit subject to the conditions of approval in Planning Commission Resolution 23-13. Before I conclude my presentation, I'd like to let the Commission know that staff did receive one public comment and it was forwarded to the Planning Commission for the review. I also have the applicant here who would like to make a presentation unless you have questions of staff.
I do not have any questions.
Nope.
Nope.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Stephen Chen, the designer of the project. Thank you, the planner Wolf, for the presentation. I just want to touch a little bit on the driveway and the position of the garage for the challenge of this project because of the condition of the shape of the lot and also the setback requirement. So as Planner Wolf has mentioned, the north east corner of the lot will be the only choice of the driveway entry. That's where the position of that entry could be. We did 3 study of the driveway entry with different position of the garage, which we're presenting in the pink, or it should be purplish color, representing the garage location, the front, the back. The blue represented driveway pavers. After all these study, we find the current location of the driveway and the garage will be the most appropriate and feasible location for the garage and also the driveway. And that's how we come up with the design follow after. And this diagram just show to mimic the planner Wolf's mentioned, the driveway entry and the building pad area. Along with this design, we come out with a 3 design evolution, starting from the left to right. In the very beginning, we have starting with this craftsman style to kind of match to the majority of neighborhood area. Along the design, we have come out with the middle one to kind of more articulating the corner of the house to make it more architectural projection to that and making more indoor-outdoor space with more deck and open space. After the previous planning commissioner meeting with other project, we feel that massive roof and the big gable at the front might be an issue to the massing of the design, also the stepping of the design. So we come up with the 3rd one, which is the final version that we cut back the roof, make the smaller roof projection, and then projecting out this gable roof in front of the garage to make the garage door more recessed back to the building line. Between the column and the garage door, it's about 5 feet difference recess over there. So that gives a little bit more hiding that garage in the back and also having that majority of the roof setting back. We still keep the patio. We believe that will be the nice and the best location to for the resident to hang out, and then looking down to the valley side. I do have a 3D model that I can show. Oops, sorry, working the wall. So that is the corner view. That will be my eye level from the street to look at the building from the lot 25. And that's what it's going to looks like right here. As you approach to that, one thing I want to address a little bit, for the driving experience to the side, going up north, where you're driving, you're not going to see the garage. Also, when you're driving down, leaving the community, you're probably not going to notice the driveway and the garage. Only the pedestrian walking around the sidewalk will see that. But again, we are trying to minimize the impact of the garage by pushing back and also articulating the custom garage door to match to the architectural style to minimize the impact for the garage door. That's the final design that we come up with due to the last couple commissioners' comment regarding the garage door and the garage position. That concludes my short presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
No questions.
Great, thank you. At this time, we will take public comment on this specific agenda item. Any person may address the Planning Commission concerning this specific agendized item. When addressing the commission, please begin by providing your name and address for the record, and please keep comments to no more than 3 minutes to assure an orderly and timely meeting.
Good evening, Terrell Willis, 3 West Carter. Josh, would it be possible to bring up that, you had the picture that showed looking across Lot 1 from the east towards my house at 3 West? Yeah, it was right before the massing. And in the staff report, it's on page 66, but I don't know where that is on your material here. It's odd to see your house so many times on these things, I'll tell you. Yeah, those blurred things. Oh, I do want to say that there are no palms on Lot 1. Those palms are on lots on 3 West. They're not on. Yeah, thank you so much. That's the picture. I just wanted to explain that my areas of concern are the placement of the patio of the structure, because it will look directly onto my house. And let's see. I think if you can you go in closer on that picture, Josh? Like get closer to my house? You know what I mean? Like make the picture.
It's really difficult to zoom in on these things.
Yeah.
And it's already quite a blurry photo.
Okay. Thanks anyway. But yes, that's, so you are looking on the east side of Lot 1. If you walk, and commissioners, I imagine perhaps you did today, if you walk more towards the west, we'll see it's directly over my house. And the property placement is, the patio placement is of real concern to me. You'll also notice another area of concern was that there is a wildlife path along the redwood fence that is frequently used, particularly by bears. There have been occasions when the police have escorted them up from lower streets, and then rather than going on the road up, they prefer my maybe less populous driveway, and they come along, and you can see where the fence edge is, and there's a lighter colored brush there. That's where they exit, and they make a left up the mountain. They don't tend to go across Lot 1. It's not that they go into that lot, but that's a way they get up and out. So just some concern and mention of that regarding the retaining wall. The other area was the lighting. I appreciate close attention to the lighting, as you can imagine. The brush clearance. I know this is not Planning Commission material exactly, but you'll see that on page 16 of the staff report, it says the natural vegetation is to remain on the hillside. Good, slope 4, we need that. But it requires professional brush clearance on a regular basis, and that is not done. And you'll see on the letter I wrote you, I sent you some pictures of how close the brush is to our houses. So whoever owns that lot, or whoever owns Stonegate generally, needs to tend to brush clearance and understand that's a part of it. The last thing that is of great concern is the constant early arrivals of construction crews. I assumed that that was clearly written about in my letter to you, so I'll just leave it at that. And I have hopes that the commission can do something to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Trell. Would anybody else like to come forward at this time with public comment?
Could I ask a quick question of the commentator?
We're not really supposed to, it's not supposed to be a dialogue, unfortunately. Hearing no other comments, we'll bring it back to the commission for deliberation.
Sure.
Thank you for the presentation. I don't really have any objections to the project itself. I think that they've done a decent job with a very hard lot and sort of all the limitations that were on it, with the setbacks and the hills, the hillside, and where the location of the pad is and all those things. And I think the garage location, I think if there weren't so many challenges to the lot, I think, yeah, we'd want to push it back and kind of hide it away from the main street. But as they presented it, it seems like that's the logical location with what they have. I think we can take a look at that. Rather, they've taken some actions to try to sort of decorate in a sense with the overhang and all of that. I think the front is well articulated. I think there's a lot of elements that kind of blend in together. The balconies, they do a good job with that. And I think with the detailing of that, it loses some of that as it goes around, but I think that's pretty consistent with most of the houses that we see on there. With regards to the patio being and facing that way, I think it's, from what I've seen, it seems like it's far enough away, and they've lowered it as much as they can on that location from the 3D images that they've shown. So I'm not sure how much they'll be able to see from there to the neighbors, but all in all, I think they've done a good job with the materials and the articulation of the house. So thank you.
You said a lot of my words.
You can go first next time.
When I first saw this, I immediately, the 30-second thing went garage. That's the thing that says no. Don't build it like this. I didn't really see, unless you pushed it back all the way flat to the entry. I didn't see any other really way of doing it. And honestly, I don't think that would look any better if they moved it all the way, so it wasn't kind of out front. Because a lot of, this is another one, you see, because it's kind of a corner lot, you see two sides of the building. When you're driving up the street, you see the south with the patio and the deck. And when you're driving up the street, you don't, unless you look left, you kind of miss the garage. So I'm fine with that. The way they've built the balconies and the roofing and everything on the second floor, I think that looks great. It really breaks up the two-story. It's interesting. It's not a two-story box. I think that was a lot of concern. As far as the patio, I did drive up there today. I did walk on the lot. I tried to walk to where the patio would be as best I could. I did look down in that direction towards the back house. I think it's 3. I did see your back door, and I did see your porch. I barely saw it. There's a lot of trees in there. The other thing, and this may be a question, I believe it's just a concrete patio. I don't believe this is like a deck or anything. So it's, if you didn't have a patio there, or if you didn't call it a patio, if you didn't have the overhang, it would just be concrete outside of a door, like a walkway or something like that. We could have a walkway and put a couple chairs out there and an umbrella, and I think it would be used for the same purpose. I don't really see how, the deck is another thing, but the deck is a couple feet lower and away, and I love the way that they lowered that too. It looks really good. I don't know if that patio, what they're calling a patio, if that really wraps into the backyard, and it just, we're calling it a patio because that has an overhang, a shade, and that's a trellis shade. I think that would be my only question, is that all part of that back, it says backyard. What is the backyard? Is the backyard grass? Is it concrete? Is it, how is this patio kind of going to wrap into that? That would be my question back before we're done. But otherwise, I like it. I think the way it sits on the lot is about as good as you can do. And thank you for going to the extra that the Stonegate, documents say with the doors. You knew you had this problem. I think the doors look great. That's it.
All right. I want to, first of all, thank staff for an incredibly comprehensive presentation that really showed the nuance of the challenges that were being faced with this lot. When you first look at the design, it is impossible to understand why it's sited where it is and why it's cookie cuttered into there. Every single decision that was made was a thoughtful decision. So you did a fantastic job of showing that. So thank you very much. And to the applicant as well, I think that you were incredibly successful at fighting the urge to build anywhere larger, which I'm sure you had that urge. You were able, with the different features you used, to get as big of a second story you could without making it look any bigger. And rather than, it was an incredibly challenging lot. Incredibly challenging. I had redesigned it 3 times before I went and visited the site for you. And truly there are trade-offs for everything. For a lot of it, I was thinking, why didn't they go for a variance so that they could push closer to the street, closer to the neighbor's yard? And then when you walk the site, you can't go any closer to the neighbor's yard. The variance is there for a reason, and it's working. I think that, of course, you knew I was going to talk about the garage. Probably the last of the lots that you're going to not have anywhere else to put the garage. But, and for those of you that are wondering what we're talking about when we mention the garage, the Stonegate design guidelines are what govern how it is that houses are built in this area. And section B2-3, actually all of section B2 has to do with the garage placement. There's a figure that shows to always push back. Figure 2, push back or do a side-loaded garage. And so I was thankful that you migrated and showed us that decision process, that you went from a very stacked 2-story box to some thoughtful design to help mitigate the effects of that. It has the effect of being pushed back much farther than it is. So thank you very much for that. And your design was very responsive to the previous meetings we've had. So I do appreciate that. I would love to figure out what the earth tone palette is, because I'm not familiar with white being an earth tone, and it's the second in 2 houses that we've seen white show up as a color. But we'll have to get further guidance on what an earth tone palette is. Incorporating the neighbors' concerns, I think that there were decisions made to minimize the amount of intrusion. The patio that's facing to the southeast could easily have been facing towards the south and looking straight over that direction. And so I think that was a cognizant design decision that was made to try to minimize that view into the neighbor's house. Lowering the patio area by 2 feet makes it so that you'd have to be 6 feet tall minimum and probably 4 to 5 feet away from the fence once that happens, I think, to have a really clear view. There's always going to be some kind of view in a neighborhood like this where there's elevation changes. The same way that the neighbor to the north of that house is going to have a view in because of the natural siting of the different lots. So I think that there was some thoughtful decisions made to help minimize that. I think that the construction that happens there for however long it's going to be happening is probably going to do more to the game trail than anything else. It's going to be, I don't think the bears are going to go running through there when there's construction happening, but I think that I did have a question about what the actual look of the retaining walls was going to be, because it looked like there were metal wrapped retaining walls, if I read those plans right, and it's possible that I didn't.
I would like to defer to the architect on that one.
To answer your question on retaining wall, it will be all CMU wall veneer with a stone. So that shouldn't be having any
Okay.
metal on top of it, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, not on top of it, but it is going to have a veneer over it, so that
Right, the
okay.
stone veneer on top of it.
Okay, great.
And we showed a couple of sections of that behind you.
I think the picture on the lower right is the
So
clearest.
that's the stone veneer, and then we do have 2 type of the retaining wall. One is the 1 tier or the 2-tier retaining wall.
And I know that these plans don't do a great job of showing what elevation changes happen there, but the walls won't have huge steps as is demonstrated in that picture, right? You're just showing the veneer?
The step is cutting through the 2 tiers retaining wall, but along to play with the contour, the wall would play with the contours, kind
It
of
would play
minimize
with the
it.
contour,
Yeah,
yeah.
otherwise you will see a very awkward wall,
Right.
like showing like more or less kind of contour.
Right, because that is one of the design guidelines as well. is
Right,
to
yeah,
have-
we're not gonna do that.
To naturally
yeah.
terminate the walls into the side of the hill.
It will
and-
follow
And follow
terrain of
the topography.
Exactly.
Okay, great. And staff, if there's a way that we can see those on plans or a demonstration of those, I think that would be helpful, because it's hard to tell. We get exemplar sections, but we don't get the elevation of the walls to make sure that guideline is being followed.
They're loosely demonstrated in the civil plans, but I understand it's very difficult to read those civil plans, and there are just notes all over the place about where the wall heights are. The intent is to show that it does play with the contours behind.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, we try to, I'm sorry, just a little, we try to model that in a 3D model, but it's so difficult to model because of everything else. So, but having a note there to stating that these retaining wall will follow the existing contour line, not exceeding the foot or something, then I think that should
Yeah, that would-
we're to take care of that already.
That would be a great note to add, so that
Yeah.
we know that that's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. And so I guess where that brings me to is that I don't because we don't know what that earth tone palette is, I don't know what, I don't know that I have anything to ask for modifications on. So it sounds like we have a consensus if somebody would like to propose a motion.
Do you have all the numbers?
Doing that right now. Thank you.
Number one.
I'd like to propose a motion to accept the Hillside Development Permit 1502 and Conditional Use Permit 1502 as is. Any,
That's fine.
this one?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Planning Commission reports. Nothing for the commission to report. We will turn it over to the Planning and Community Preservation Department.
So we do have a meeting that is scheduled for September 7th. So we are going to have the one continued item, 595 Auburn, presented to the commission. We also have a continued item, Lot 2, the house right next to this one that you saw a couple of weeks ago. So that's coming back for your review. And we also have another project. It's at 174 South Lima Street. It's a replacement of a single-family dwelling, a two-story single-family dwelling at that location. So it's going to be a busy evening with 3 projects on our agenda. Also, to let you know, the noise ordinance, which has been placed on the City Council agenda a number of times, is going to be continued again to the September 12th meeting. But on the August 22nd meeting, Lizzie's Trail and the historic designation is being presented to the City Council for their consideration. And those are probably the major items that are going before the council from the commission.
Great.
That includes my comments.
Great. Thank you very much. And I guess that brings us to the end of our meeting then. We'll adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting of September 7th. Thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.